Hey, well, I'm sitting today with Marcel Latouche. She's the head of the Institute for Public Sector Accountability and the author of a number of books, including Take Back City Hall and Leadership, Collaboration in the 21st Century. So Marcel likes taking on large, overwhelming, difficult issues such as City Hall and leadership within Canada. So, Marcel, it's been quite a year in 2021, and we've got so many challenges in governance and leadership at every level. Maybe give a rundown on what we've dealt with this year before we work on what we're going to try and deal with next year.
Well, let's start with the federal government, for instance. I believe that Trudeau is an imbecile and he's appointed people around him who are greater idiots than he is. The Liberal Party has got a major problem when you have a former drama teacher, and now we have a finance minister who was a media financial reporter. Coming from a background of finance and economics, I just cannot see how this country is going to get better. He has used COVID-19, which is a tragedy, a pandemic that came from China, friends of Trudeau, by the way. He has continuously refused to condemn China. We have two Michaels in China for the past 2 years, and none of his diplomatic overtures has been able to do anything for these two guys. In the meantime, he is positioning himself to have a reset that nobody in the public understands, but some of us understand that it is going to be a path towards amazing, disturbing socialist policies based on the ideology of globalism and wealth redistribution. COVID-19, for instance, has been a mess as managed by Trudeau. Don't forget, we keep telling us that we should be believing in science and, of course, relying on science. But politicians have not relied on science. They've just used the proverbial cover your ass policies. I can understand them. I can understand that they don't want to be wrong and create a problem. But be careful what you do. For instance, let's start with CERB, for instance. The money was given. It's a good idea to help people financially. But what has happened is we've never thought this through very well. We've had people who should never have got the money who've got the money. And now what happens is, these poor people are going to have to return the money. This is bad management again. If you continue to start doing things in the sense of ideology instead of doing things that are going to be good for the people, we're going to be in trouble. So that's the sort of thing that we are getting to the point of where this liberal federal government is going to take us. And it's very scary. We cannot just borrow money all the time, and then people who don't understand just say, it's going to be our grandchildren who are going to pay for it. Not really. We are going to pay for it immediately, within the next year or so. A carbon tax, which does nothing for the climate, is going to be imposed once again. And this is going to be attacking the West, most clearly, Alberta. So this is where we're at with the federal government.
Okay, well, let's move down to provincially. Alberta's got a lot of challenges. We've got a hostile federal government. We've got the pandemic as well to deal with. And we do have Jason Kenney, who seems to have been trying to protect business as much as possible, but still the actions and regulations and restrictions are still locking us down. What has he done and what can he do?
Well, once again, it's extremely difficult for politicians of either stripe to make decisions that are going to be acceptable to everybody. The pandemic is here. What worries me is the lack of information that we get. people just get information about the number of cases. Sure, the number of cases rises when you have an increase in testing. I mean, for instance, there are many doctors who are now saying that a rise in cases does not necessarily means a rise in mortality. So put yourself in the place of politicians like Jason, who has struggled in protecting the rights of people, the rights of association, and the freedoms based on our Constitution. But by the same token, he's had to fight a number of fronts: the health profession, the medical profession, who are on the other side saying you should close down everything. But then we make decisions that are totally contrary to what we are supposed to be doing. How, for instance, I'm an athlete, I've been an athlete all my life, I still play competitively. The problem is, how can you say that we are going to have a junior tournament in a bubble, but we cannot allow people to have parents at home? We say that we can have Costco, Walmart, and the big places and the big stores open. Granted, they are essential for us to get our food, our consumer goods. It's fine. But then on the other side, you say, well, a restaurant cannot be open. Why is it that a restaurant cannot be open with limited seating? I mean, this is ridiculous. You have been in this industry. It's one of the most difficult industry that exists, the restaurant business. You have to buy your food, you have to buy your ingredients, and then what do? You close them down, it gets lost. This is a very, very difficult industry, and in my view, they have been the ones who have been the most affected by different policies. And it is totally wrong to start giving money the way that we've been dishing out money, taxpayers' money, by the way, in a way that the small businesses have not been given the fair due that they should be getting. The federal government gave rent assistance, but they gave it to the landlord. If the landlord doesn't pass it to the renter, what is going to happen? The renter is going to go bankrupt anyway. These are the sort of things that we should have been looking at. As far as Alberta is concerned, what is going on now, they say there's an increase in ICU and so on and so forth. I am not a medical expert. I just look at things in a strategic way. What we should have done is, instead of building those so-called portable hospitals, we should have done it a long time ago. This is a pandemic. People should have been isolated. Why put them in hospitals unless they are people who are supposed to go to the ICU? People should have been treated in small portable hospitals all over the place, and they would have been isolated and kept away from the general public in hospitals.
Yeah,
but that's my point.
Yeah, a lot of unique lessons this year. We'll have a lot to look back on what might have worked and what not. And then municipally, so we've got Mayor Nenshi, who you've always been quite outspoken on as well. He was one of the pressures, along with Iveson, really pushing on the provincial government, saying, if you don't shut everybody down, we're going to do it on your behalf, which kind of forced the issue. So it's been quite a year in municipal politics beating on Albertans too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think those two mayors have put a lot of pressure on Jason Kenney. The problem is these two people are looking over their shoulder because they are going to be out of a job in 2021. At least I hope so. But don't forget, they are both liberals, so therefore they are playing the game to get another gig at a higher level once they leave their jobs. Nenshi, unlike Iveson, who has been a little bit more quiet, but Nenshi has got his own PR going on. I mean, he likes to be in front of the camera, and everybody will tell you that for the past month or so, he's been on television every day. He has something to say, because don't forget, he's after all the smartest guy in the room. So Of course. So he has to be there every day. He has all the answers. For somebody who cannot have answers for his own city, he is very quick to start telling you what should be done at other levels. The problem with Nenshi right now is that he's taken the little mantle of dictator and interfered with everything. So he calls a meeting with his council and to ask that the mask bylaw should be imposed until December 2021. December 2021. It's incredible because now we have a vaccine. Everybody who's in the science are telling you that the vaccine is going to help us, or saying that, oh, maybe we are going to go over the hump here. But once again, in a dictatorial way, he gets a bylaw to go in for December 2021. So we are supposed to be locked up, masked up for a whole year now. There's the real rub here. Nenshi can do this because of the 9 other sycophants who continuously support him. This particular bylaw was passed 9-3 because there were other people who were not there. And for instance, Jones was not there. I believe Woolley was not there. And Coley Urquhart was not there. And they didn't vote. So the vote went down 9-3. So people should really remember this. 9-3. The only people who did not vote for this bylaw were Farkas, Chu, and Maglioka. So when we talk about this, and you look about what's happening at City Hall, we have a major problem. Nenshi has got 1 vote. Without the support of his sycophants, most of the policies cannot pass muster. And we should remember this in 2021. 2021 is going to be a seminal year. I believe it's going to be a watershed year at all 3 levels of political arena. There's going to be a reset for sure at the federal level with a Biden administration coming in. Our little friend Mr. Trudeau is going to have an ally to start doing his globalist kind of issue. And today I see that the McDonald Laurier have issued a paper about multilateralism. For sure, for us to combat globalism, we need multilateralism because there are so many big institutions like the UN, the WHO, and so on and so forth. For us to be able to do that, my point of view is, in the next year, we should start a negotiation with the UK, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and the US to form a trade bloc. Talk about multilateralism, that would be the Western multilateralism bloc that can stop what is going on today. As far as Alberta is concerned, Jason Kenney will have a year next year to reset, to do things that he was supposed to do, that he was unable to do because of the pandemic. But he must have the courage, in my view, to start doing things in a true small c conservative common sense. And what that I mean by that is, stop compromising. We cannot compromise any longer with Ottawa because that has got us nowhere. I always say, and I have written in my books, compromise on process, but never compromise your principles. If Kenney wants to bring back the Alberta advantage, he has to stop compromising any of the conservative principles we have. We must fight Ottawa because otherwise we are going to have a certain portion of Albertans who are going to start calling again for a major rethink about our position in the Confederation. People are going to start talking about separation. Personally, I don't believe in separation, but I believe in talking about separation as a strategy to get what we are supposed to get. And municipal, well, I'll leave it to Calgarians. We are going to see what happens. We are going to look at a number of candidates. I'm prepared to start looking at candidates, vetting them, see what they stand for, because we have a number of political action committees coming up, and most of them are being backed by the union's big money. The rules have changed. We are going to have to change ourselves in the way we do politics at the municipal level. Who we support, who we looked at. We must be able to vet these people who call themselves conservatives every time to get elected, and then once they get elected, they act as the biggest liberal there is out there. And we've got to be very, very careful.
Well, that's it. And yes, with an election year coming, we kind of keep repeating that same cycle. And hopefully, I mean, maybe something good can come out of tough times, and maybe voters will be a little more informed and, looking more carefully on who they choose. Because, as you said, with any luck, it could be a watershed year, and in a good way. So how can people get involved to improve things in this 2021 year, municipally and so on? And how can they find more information about the work you're doing, Marcel?
Well, I mean, we are going to start trying to look at how we are going to do things. On the second week of January, we are looking at a number of things to do here. So by the mid of January, we will have a more, how should I say, concrete and more defined strategy of what we are going to do, how we are going to get involved. It is complex. There are other people who've already started campaigning out there. Some people have announced where they are going. We are going to look at this very seriously. We are going to start interviewing candidates in the new year and finding who they are, making sure they know who they are, and making sure certainly that Calgarians know who they are. Because coming from the background that and the work we've done, we know exactly what a conservative should look like and should sound like. We don't want somebody who walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and is a duck. So we want a conservative who's going to be a conservative, and not a so-called conservative who goes and votes as a liberal once he gets in there. There are so many of those. I'm being very disappointed about some of them on council today. We supported some of them, and they said they were conservative, and their vote certainly has not been conservative on issue of taxes. And the problem that we have is they go in there and it's scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. And there are too many of these. This is very simple. Let me give you a little anecdote here. Some years ago, Councillor Cara brought a policy called the charrette. It is a policy whereby you involve the community and so on and so forth. And council will tell you, oh, we are engaged. We are always engaged with the people. So they are so engaged that when the people say something, afterwards, they don't do anything that the people say. By the way, charrette is a word translated in English, means cart. And the problem with council is they've been putting the cart before the horse on many issues. They get involved in too many things outside of their jurisdiction, and when it matters in their jurisdiction, they cannot make a good decision because you scratch my back and I scratch yours. And we don't want that. People are supposed to get voted in to represent their constituents, not to represent each other, to get big pensions and continue with their big pensions. That is going to be the big issue for 2021 at the municipal level, in my view.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Marcel. We'll definitely have to check in with you again into 2021 and see how things are shaping up within the next couple of months. It's going to be an active year, if nothing else. So thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Cory, always a pleasure. Merry Christmas to your listeners and a Happy New Year to us all, because we will need a happier year in 2021. Thanks, Cory.
Great. Thanks.